Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. I originally had the concept for making this video about a month ago. However, I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to deliberately wait until it's no longer Black History Month to talk about Kindred of the Ebony Kingdom, which is the African corner of the Vampire the Masquerade setting from the original World of Darkness series from the late 90s, early 2000s. And, like quite a few things from that original version of Vampire, it's part of why I have trouble kind of getting into the current incarnation of 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade, because not only does it leave out the Sabbat and several of my favorite clans, it also has no mention of the Kuei Jin in the East or any of the African legacies. Now, the thing with the vampires of sub-Saharan Africa is they are not like the Kuei Jin. They are not a completely separate, different kind of vampire. They are Cainites of a sort, although their legendary is different, and instead of framing themselves in clan bloodlines, instead they are legacies. Functionally, there's very little in the way of difference. It's not that much different than with modern 5th edition D&D and trying to rename the character's race as, the character's ancestry. It has no functional change on how, like, the game actually runs. It's kind of just more a bit of setting flavor. But I wanted to run through, I guess, the primary legacy clans that are to be found in this book that are actually really, like, honestly African in origin. We'll start off here with the Akunansi. I'm probably going to, mispronounce a few things here and there, so just deal with it. I'm going to kind of try to keep these things short. Basically, these dudes you can kind of describe as being spider-themed Nosferatu. Despite their appearance, they're actually one of the more chill, knowledgeable, and wise of the vampire types to be found down here. They're probably like one of my top 3 out of this set of clans that are available. There is a slight variation on the followers of Set. Mostly the same, though, as they are in other settings, so I'm not going to talk too much about them, but your classic, snake vampire, worshiper of the dark Egyptian god, all that kind of stuff. This is supposed to kind of like maybe give a bit more of a the Nubian angle on the Setites as opposed to the Arabian angle on the Setites that you get in your more mainstream settings, which is why they're kind of re-included in this batch and not just mentioned as being like, oh yeah, and there's followers of Set there. The Guri. These are probably your fill-in for your Ventru, maybe your La Sombra. They are the primary ruling clan of vampires in sub-Saharan Africa. Most of the, whatever kind of vampiric domains that you will come across that have a hierarchy and a rulership, it's going to be these cats. They are not the only rulers, though. They are just like the primary ancient power holders of the region. One of the things that, I like overall about the atmosphere of the setting is there's an interesting kind of juxtaposition of like this like the mystery of like ancient beings juxtaposed with the sudden shift in society that Africa's undergoing, and that most of the world has been undergoing to one degree or another for the last few centuries. And the Gururi are, at one end of that. They're the established old power structure and not the new, and whether or not they're able to adapt to changing times remains to be seen as new rivals emerge. We got the Ishtari here. They're also another one that's technically not really a sub-Saharan African clan. They're of Babylonian origin. The Ishtari, emerged from followers of Ishtar, that kind of stuff. They're known as gluttons. They kind of remind me a little bit of like light Toreador, not quite so artsy-fartsy, but still very much about self-indulgence and pleasure and that kind of stuff. The Kanyani, they're kind of gangrel-esque, the big-time, travelers. They don't so much like fall into becoming bestial like the Grand Gangrel, but, they do like to roam the land. They're used as messengers and go-betweens between the various, vampire kingdoms of this continent. The Naglopers, almost like the Zemisi, but if the Zemisi weren't at all, like organized, Naglopers, instead kind of, they're all like their own little individual monster. They're very horrific. You can kind of view them as almost being like the mere dark reflection of the Akunansi, whereas, you know, they're ugly, but they're still noble and wise and intelligent. And the Naglopers deserve their reputation for being fearsome monsters of the night, let's say. The Ocebo, I don't know, like, they're all right. They're basically just African Bruja. Very, very kind of similar vibe. Supposedly one of the more numerous common types of vampires you would run into in an Ebon Kingdom setting. So, you know, they're a backbone vampire legacy for the region, but in concept, I mean, there's literally not a whole lot to write home about. They're like Bruja. They're angry and they like to fight. The end. The Shango. Yeah. Maybe you would describe them as like a light version of Tremere. They fulfill the role of sorcerers within vampiric society, but they don't quite have the same level of like thaumaturgical blood magic that Tremere vampires have going on. But they're pretty cool. I like their overall vibe and concept. And finally, we have the Zundu. These are the upcoming rivals to the Guri, so you would say that these guys are kind of the La Sombra to the Gururi's Ventru, and in fact, they do have some things that are slightly reminiscent of the La Sombra, and that their weakness is that they cast no shadow at all. And so, you know, those are your basic clans that Kindred of the Ebony Kingdom had introduced into the vampire setting. Like I said, the region has an interesting vibe and atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of got ignored a bit, and definitely ignored since, as I say, the new supposedly woke, extra uptight about making sure that everyone feels safe and included version of Vampire the Masquerade manages to just completely erase the existence of this lost little corner of the old world of darkness. You can find it in print or the PDF on DriveThruRPG. If you are a vampire fan and you never got around to checking this book out, I recommend you do so. It was a pretty good read, and yeah. So yeah, that's it. Buy something or not, I don't care. Have a good one and stay waspinated.